Hotepe bakhanyiselwa. Welcome to our final lesson on the mysteries zabangoma abafihliweyo. I keep forgetting to include the pamphlet or the link, so I'm gonna include the link on the description for those who still don't have the book. Today we are finishing off not with the teachings but rather with the article. So we're still gonna have more teachings on this. Today, Bakanyiselwa, the main topics are the brothers' powers and the destiny of man. The brothers' powers are the abilities, the gifts that are attained by one who travels the path. The destiny of man is the destination of the path. Where is the path leading to? This is gonna be a good balance, I think, because when you speak of power, definitely you must include intent. So let us see what they say about the brothers' powers. And before we go into that, this piece of text that we are about to read is actually focused on the source of the brothers' powers. Right? So it's a good way to start because before we can talk about the brothers' powers, it is better we start with the source of the brothers' powers. So we are basically continuing from where we left off last time, and we are at I think this is the last page. So it says, of the occult powers wielded by Mandlalanga and his fellow master, I saw several examples, but of these I do not feel at liberty to speak here. The reader has had already sufficient food for thought. I shall conclude with a rather cryptic quotation from Mandlalanga on the source of the brothers' power. Of the source of the power we wield, the pupil can learn but little until he attains discipleship. But let him ponder this much. I have likened individuality to whirlpools in the cosmic ocean, but all that ocean has not been cast into individuality. Between the whirlpools, myriads though they may be, stretch wide, smooth places, identical with them in composition. Now, it can well be conceived that a whirlpool, by setting up minor vibrations within itself, may send out ripples through the smooth spaces which will strike upon and affect in some degree other whirlpools. All the whirlpools are constantly doing this. Now suppose a whirlpool have gained power to control its internal vibrations and to send them pulsating through the ocean towards whatever objective it desires. Can you not see that it may produce upon that objective whatever effect it desires? Now think of the whirlpool as being a man. Is it not clear that by getting full control of the vibrations of his higher planes, he may dispatch through the cosmic ocean of which he is part ripples of various kinds of intensities, which according to their nature and strength will produce effects on all strata, from the highest, which is of course the most sensitive, even down to the slime and mud of the depth. I gave you this as food for thought and bid you digest it well. Here, Bakanyiselwa, they are talking about the source of the brothers' powers. And last time we did say that this school deals with Ogwazi Gwestabang, the science of the mind. So the source of the brothers' power is really the mind. On this text, they said, since we are in the cosmic ocean, which is really the mind, our individuality is represented by myriads of whirlpools. We covered this on the earlier episodes. I hope you remember those lessons. If you don't, you can check them out on the playlist Yabangoma Abafihliweyo on my channel. So, anyway, since we are in this cosmic ocean, it means we affect each other through ripples of vibrations. Every day of our lives, we constantly affect each other through our vibrations. But obviously, we don't know. Some people have strong vibrations, thus, they affect others more than they are affected by others. And the goal of the initiates is to be able to gather enough energy so that they are not easily affected by others. Initiates are able to affect others positively through their own vibrations, in fact. This is how they heal, and this is how they help others. And you must notice that people who are spiritually gifted are easily affected by other people's vibrations. That is why you find some of them telling you that they cannot be around large crowds and they don't like to interact with too many people. So, this shows us that we constantly affect each other through these vibrations, right? So, this is the source of the brother's power. And all of this goes back to ukwazi kwesithabango, the amandla kwesithabango, the power of the mind. So now I want us to go back to the text and look at what they say about some of their brothers' powers. In fact, Mankanyezi and Mandlalanga actually gave Patrick Bowen not only the proof of their teachings, but the proof of their power. Patrick Bowen says, of the occult powers wielded by Mandlalanga and his fellow master, I saw several examples, but of these I do not feel at liberty to speak here. So he did see. So Patrick Bowen witnessed the brothers' powers. One example he gives on this article was when he was with Umankanyezi. Let's check out that story and actually see what happened. This is on page 2. So Mankanyezi says, do you think thought is limited by the power of the body? See this and try to understand. As he spoke, he pointed to a lizard which basked in the sun nearby. Fixing his eyes upon it, he extended his hand, palm upward towards it, and began to breathe slowly and regularly. In a few seconds, the beady eyes of the little reptile turned towards him. It took a little run forward, then stopped, its sides expanding and contracting rhythmically. After a few seconds further pause, it again darted forward and settled itself upon the old man's open palm. He let it rest for a while, then slid it gently among the leaves where it quickly concealed itself. He looked at us and smiled gently. That is witchcraft. Ubuthakathi, perhaps you will say, he said. Perhaps I sent an evil spirit to call the lizard to me, or perhaps it is itself an evil spirit which serves me. If I tell you that my mind went out and entered its brain, and our two minds became one, you will not believe me. Some day, perhaps, you will understand. So, in the story, Mankanyezi was trying to show the author about ukwazi kwesithabango, the power of the mind. He actually controlled a lizard with his own mind. He says his mind became one with the lizard, and that is how he managed to control it and make it crawl on his palm. But it is easy to believe that this is ubuthakathi. It is easy to believe that this is the work of evil spirits than to believe that this is the work of a pure mind. It's the work of a pure mind. Even now, people may find it easy to believe that this is pure evil. Therefore, they may find it difficult to believe that a human being can do this with his own mind without the help of evil spirits and or witchcraft. The human mind has so much potential, and with the exception of such initiates as Abafihliweyo, humanity has not even begun to understand what the mind can do. In Kemu and in many parts of Africa, the pharaohs and the high priest kings would always be accompanied by a lion or a leopard whenever they address the people in large crowds. Right? This was a symbol to show that they are in total control of their utiwesilo, their animal self. And yes, they controlled these lions through their minds. Hence, in many tribes around Africa, the king was also the custodian of the lions, leopards, and cheetahs. In larger communities, like in the case of Kemu, ancient Egypt, the roles would be split. There was a pharaoh, and then there would be the keeper of the lions, who was also as highly initiated as the pharaoh and the Ptahhotep. So really this thing of controlling animals with your mind is a very ancient thing. I'm also reminded of Bab Credo Mutwa, who also says that there was a time when humans didn't need to hunt animals. We didn't need to hunt them down. We would just mentally call upon any animal and it would come to you and it would simply lay itself down so you can slaughter it. These ancient people were basically just controlling the minds of the animals they wanted to slaughter. Going back to the text, we also find the story of Umandlalanga, where he tells Patrick Bowen about the speed of thought. Let's check it out. Patrick Bowen says, "One day I was speaking of the inexplicable manner in which news of distant happenings spread among the natives, when suddenly he said, this is Mandlalanga now, thought is speedier than the electric spark and needs no wire for its conveyance. All it needs is a brain to dispatch it and another to receive it. Would you believe it if I told you that I and others of the brotherhood to which I belong can transmit our thoughts one to the other no matter how far apart our bodies may be?" Again, we are told about the brothers' powers and that basically these initiates can communicate from a distance with each other. Mandlalanga says it only takes one brain to dispatch, to send the message, and another brain to receive that message. So basically, this is telepathy, the ability to communicate mentally, regardless of the distance. There are many abilities that the mind can perform. They also speak about mesmerism, which is what Mankanyezi did. We can say he actually mesmerized the lizard. They say this gift of mesmerism is one of the gifts that actually gets activated first. Remember, we read this last time when we spoke about the disciple. In fact, let's go back to it and read it again. This is under the hierarchy of the school, right? The level of the disciple, umkhethwa, the chosen one. The disciple is an avowed member of the brotherhood and subject to its disciplines. Under instruction, he develops certain powers. That which in English is called mesmerism is usually one of the earliest to develop. So they say mesmerism is one of the earliest gifts to surface as a disciple. Most importantly, under the instruction of a master, and rightly so. This is also another thing we need to emphasize, and they continuously warn us about the danger of the brother's powers. It's the danger of attempting to attain a brother's powers without the instruction of a master. On page 6, where they talk about Isangoma, they say, we constantly warn all unavowed disciples against the danger of attempting to attain a brother's powers unaided by the direct instruction of a master. Right? When we are talking about the brother's powers, we are not talking about our basic, simple abilities of divination, prophecy, clairvoyance, clairaudience, using herbal medicines and the likes. We are talking very strange powers like mesmerism. These are the type of abilities that may even damage your nerve centers if you can't control them properly. That's why we are being warned about their powers. This also goes back to the fact that spirituality is dangerous, even worse when it comes to the powers. So, as initiates, we should rather focus on the path and the spiritual growth, and the powers will come, but let them come as a result of your strength and your growth, not as the main aim. Because the thing about some spiritual gifts is that you can attain them without really mastering the self or overcoming the ego and preparing the body. And this is what makes them very dangerous. Yet, some spiritual gifts are unactivated by reason of our ego, and this in turn actually protects us. Our ego is also protecting us from activating our sleeping gifts, because if those gifts get activated, we might even fade away from this reality. Our ego itself is too fragile to withstand what is really out there. This is really just the way of talking. The best way to put it is to say our idlozi is too fragile for our itong. The idlozi gets overwhelmed such that it may lose control of its faculties, and sometimes it may even perish in the midst of the raging winds of Itong. Beyond the edges of Idlozi, there is a very strong, a very real wind that rages, and this wind can easily sweep us away if our Idlozi is not grounded enough. That's why it's important to make ourselves strong, and nobody can make you strong except yourself. This is a very important teaching, and I feel like we must make time for this. For now, let's move on. So, now we are moving on to the destiny of man. This is our second topic for today. So, let us hear what they have to say about the destiny of man. So, right now we are on page 5. On man and his destiny. So this is before, for those that are trying to read along, this is before the 7 principles of man, right before the 7 principles of man, right, on page 5. So it says, on man and his destiny, Mandlalanga discoursed thus. Man is an individual having in him, as has everything on the physical plane, all the attributes of the cosmic ocean of which he is an individualized portion. He has reached on his upward journey the stage of personal consciousness. I speak of men in general. There are undeveloped men whose personal consciousness is but rudimentary, as there are others who have transcended personality and know their real selves. That immortal portion first individualized from the lofty planes of the spiritual mind. Man is on a journey, the goal of which is union with the source of his being, the Itong. To reach that goal, He must first pass through all the experience the cosmos affords and must shake off all accretions accumulated on his descent from individualized spiritual mind into grossest matter. To do this, he is born and born again. For his physical body dies, as do his lower mental principles. Only his higher mental principles, which are akin with the eternal, survive individuality bestowed upon them at its opening. Oh, so now they are saying human beings as individuals carry everything within creation. We carry all the attributes of the cosmic ocean, of which we are just an individualized portion. So, as individualized portions of the cosmic ocean, we carry all of its attributes, just like if you take a container and you fill it with ocean water. The water in the container carries all the attributes of the ocean. Literally, we are a mini universe because we carry all the attributes of the universe in individualized portion. Meaning that if the universe was created mentally, it means we can also create our own universes with suns and planets with, evolving life forms through our own minds. They continue to say that man has reached on his upward journey the stage of personal consciousness, meaning that human beings are now self conscious. We are now self aware. But they also say this is but a generalization because there are some people whose consciousness is rudimentary and others have transcended personality and they know their real selves, right? Which is the individualized spiritual mind, Utiwe Tong. So this goes back to the fact that some people are awake and others are asleep. And I know when I start talking about being awake and being asleep, people may associate this with, modern day language, modern day lingo about being woke and all of that. But we are definitely not there. We are speaking here about the awareness of the self, the awareness of illusion. Like I said last time, humanity is largely ruled by their animal nature, utiwesilo. There's only a few people that are actually governed by reason. As much as we like to see ourselves as reasonable people, we are really not. We are really governed by our emotions. We are very emotional. Most of us live our lives based around, survival. We are on survival mode. Even when we go into spirituality, we approach it with an animal mind to make money, to get married, to have children, to be successful, to get a job, etc. People go to church and to traditional healers. Hotep. People go to church and to traditional healers solely for survival reasons. So therefore, we are really not on the level of human thought. Uti womuntu. Much of our technology is sophisticated, but not really, because we just made things more complicated without really improving anything. Instead, we made things worse. Our technology is based on advancements in communication, right? But animals also do communicate, so we haven't really gone far. We have advancements in physics, and in physics we are really just studying matter, and we are coming up with complicated names and complicated theories for this matter. But really, we really haven't done anything because animals also study their environment. Whenever an animal sees something different in its surroundings, it gets curious, and it's definitely going to study it, if not to find out if this is a threat or not. Some animals may touch it or try to move the object or to see if it moves or to see if it's alive. Others will sniff the object to study it, you know. Others may even lick the object to get a sense of what the object, looks like. So studying your environment to determine what it is still quite animalistic, because animals also do study their environments and objects, we have modern medicine, which is also based on survival. I mean, that's the main focus of medicine. Whatever modern advancement that we have is really not based on human thought. Our technologies don't really reflect human thought, but they reflect our animal instincts. Even our daily concerns, our daily thoughts always revolve around worries of survival. We rarely think beyond our daily human concerns. We are more on the level of uthi wesilo, the animal mind. It takes self-awareness and absolute self-control to overcome your uthi wesilo, your animal mind. When you do overcome your animal mind, you attain ubuntu, uthi wobuntu, or uthi womuntu. This is when we can say now you are umuntu, you are a human, because you are now controlled by your human mind. You are no longer controlled by your uthi wesilo, your animal mind. This means now you are using your reason to overcome lower passions. You become a very reasonable person. For those who are still on the animal mind, they may even think that you are a genius, but you are really just being reasonable. When you ascend to the level of Utiwe Tongo, you are now a super genius, most definitely. This is when they say you transcended personality. You are now conscious on the plane of the real self. They also say that the destiny of human beings is to come into this world again and again. We must reincarnate until we unite with our Itongo. This is the unity between Idlozi Netongo. In this way, we ultimately ascend. Hence, the final destiny of human beings is to ascend. That is why we come back to this world again and again until we create a perfect Idlozi, a perfect personality for ascension. Without Itongo, there's no ascension. Without Idlozi, there's no Impagamo, there's no ascension. Both of these must be combined as the manifested and the unmanifested in order to ascend. They say to reach this goal, we must pass through all the experience the cosmos affords. So before we ascend, we must pass through all experiences. We must experience everything there is to experience. Hence, ascension is the path of growth. It's the elder path. Indeed, before one can ascend, one must be an old soul. That's why when we looked at the hierarchy of the previous lesson, they tell us that one cannot be a Sangoma unless one has reached the level of a master in a previous incarnation, in a previous lifetime. The same can be said with the Abakulu Bantu, the ascended masters. Through this text, we are shown that ascension is an initiation. Remember when I said this, that ascension is a calling and it has its own initiation. The mystery school of Abangoma Abafihliweyo are but one of the many hidden lineages that focuses not on healing and divination, but it focuses on evolving the human being through the perfection of Idlozi, the perfection of the personality. Then ultimately, we must attain ascension. But I don't want to add my own teachings. So let us end this here and we shall talk deeply about this subject in a different video. Bakhanyiselwa, we've come to the end of our video for today. We thank you for joining us. Do like, do subscribe in order to get more notifications when we update the videos. Yeah, we are actually done with this article, and I'm glad that we actually finished it off. The lessons are there, the lessons are expansive, the lessons are just on another level. So we are definitely going to continue with Abangoma Bafihliwe, even though we're not going to be using this pamphlet, right? Of course, we're going to be going back to it every now and then, right? Just to at least expand on the teachings, right? And for now, Bakanyiselwa, we can only say, Tsao.